Alright, thanks for coming back to Shooting It Straight. And I hope I don't mess this up because it's going to be a kind of lengthy video, but it is very important. And it's a revolutionary video. You won't see one like this on this topic anywhere on YouTube gun channels. Okay? Now, how many of those YouTube gun videos have you watched that claim to demonstrate cleaning and maintaining a pistol properly? Now, I've seen tons of them myself, all claiming that their method was the proper method, except that in about 97% of those cases, I think there were actually very little that was proper about it. So how about we go through the correct way to clean and maintain our pistols and why frequent cleaning is necessary. Now, in addition to correctly cleaning them, we'll likely cover how to correctly lubricate them if you decide to lubricate your pistol. Now, I don't lubricate my pistols, but I will demonstrate how to correctly lubricate if you do, which is not a problem. But you can over-lubricate. It's been proven to cause problems, and we want to avoid that. So we'll cover that briefly, okay? Alright, now, like I said, this is a detailed, 100% fact-based and accurate video. And if you watch and listen closely, you'll see how to keep your pistol functioning reliably for generations to come. Oh, hell. Now, oh shit, I keep hitting that table, sorry. Now, I want you to keep in mind that some of this will no doubt be controversial, and many will disagree with me. And you know, that's okay, because they have before. It's not a problem. However, keep in mind that I am demonstrating here today the same methods that have been taught in the factory armorers courses of 3 major U.S. arms manufacturers, at least that I'm aware, that I'm personally familiar with. And they're all relatively the same in regards to the maintenance portion, including the last factory armorers course I attended, which was the Glock one down in Smyrna, Georgia. Now, as well, keep in mind that a particular portion of this video is backed up by metallurgical engineering science. Additionally, I've been following this very procedure I'm about to demonstrate for nearly 2 decades now, with both my personal pistols and as well as with the firearms that were under my aegis in law enforcement during my tenure as Chief Weapons Armorer and Master Police Firearms Instructor. And there has yet to be any problems in the least while doing that method, while performing those procedures in that method. Alright, but you know, first let's put an end to the constant debate of when or how often you should clean your pistol. This seems to be a huge debate all the time, and everybody's different with it, and I really don't understand why. Because there's no magic round count. There's no magic number. The answer is right there in your owner's manual. Just about every owner's manual instructs the gun owner, that would be you, to clean it after each firing session and to keep it clean. I don't see any confusion there. In other words, when you return from your range session, clean it. It doesn't matter how many rounds you put through it, just clean it. Now, why the frequent and thorough cleaning anyway? Well, because fouling is a byproduct of shooting, right? The more we shoot without cleaning, the more that fouling builds up. Internal fouling is comprised of carbon, unburnt and partially burnt charge powders, primer compound residue, and graphite. Now, I'm talking about powdered graphite here, which is abrasive, because ammo manufacturers use powdered graphite to coat the powder charge. Now that prevents the charge from lumping. Alright, then you have external particulate matter or elements, such as dust, sand, lint, dirt, water. All that easily finds its way inside the gun and mixes in with the internal fouling. Now, continuing to shoot a firearm that is excessively fouled when you don't have to is nothing short of the intentional abuse and neglect of that firearm. It is an exercise in destruction, and it is grossly irresponsible. Now, there's a video out there now with a host who is a firearms instructor proudly admitting that he doesn't bother to clean his EDC, his everyday carry. This is a gun he carries every day to protect himself because, he says, they just don't need it. He doesn't bother to clean it until he's put several thousands of rounds through it. Not only should this shit for brains dude have his instructor's certificate pulled, but he should also be banned from ever even looking at another firearm again. Now, here's how that fouling wears down the components of your gun if you fail to properly and frequently clean it out. Gun oil retains and holds that internal fouling and other debris and external debris that gets in there. It holds it in our pistols. Alright? Grease is even worse. Okay? Eventually that fouling mixes with the oil or grease and forms an abrasive sludge or an abrasive paste that wears the components down, similar to a lapping compound. Alright? That is the only thing that causes any wear to any components on your firearm. That excessive fouling is also a major contributor to malfunctions. So, we need to remove all grease, oil, debris, external and internal fouling elements during cleaning to prevent those malfunctions and to prevent that wear. Now, as far as your everyday carry pistol is concerned, I strongly recommend that you frequently disassemble or field strip your pistol and inspect it for accumulated debris, which can easily work its way into weird areas and crevices, that you never thought would be possible. So be smart and play it safe here. Now, I've already laid out the basic supplies that I use, and this is just what I use. You may use other things, and that's okay. But this is what I use, and I will briefly touch on each one of them. Now, I've selected my old Springfield Armory XD 45 service model 4-inch barrel, which I've carried that thing for almost 10 years. All right. So here's the list of supplies that I use. Okay. A bronze bristle bore brush, caliber appropriate, of course. Avoid using steel bristle brushes because it could scratch the steel deep enough to allow for corrosion problems. Okay, that's a possibility. All right. I also like the slotted jag, or the slotted tip for the cleaning patches, to go through. I like those a lot better, instead of the other jag. You know what I'm talking about. Now, the cleaning rod here that I use for the bronze bristle, I prefer the kind that rotates. See, this rotates. See how the bristles that way these bristles will follow the rifling of the barrel. Alright, it'll just follow the rifling, and it tends to clean it better that way when it does that. Now I use cotton flannel patches, caliber appropriate, naturally. I think they absorb better. Now you can use these synthetic patches, and they're alright too. I don't mind them. But I like the cotton flannel ones better. That's just me. Q-tips, an absolute lifesaver, and I'll show you what to do with that. A little bit of a silicone impregnated gun cloth. round wooden toothpicks. You can also use a plastic pick style, similar to this, but this is steel. Do not use any kind of steel or metal to scrape anything on your gun at all. It's either got to be wood or plastic. Then you can use the plastic picks to get down into some of the crevices down in there and pick that stuff out. Okay. And of course you got to have some M16 brushes. This is a bronze bristle brush, double-ended type, M16 type. And this is a nylon bristle. Now I generally use these for scrubbing the breech face, right up in here. And that's about the only time I use those. I clean my gun every time I get back from the range, so a lot of accumulation never really builds up, and it's a lot quicker and easier to clean it that way than if you were to let it go for thousands of rounds and let that shit build up in there. Now, I use regular bore solvent. You know, Hoppy's number 9, Otis, Outers, it doesn't matter. I've used Hoppy's number 9. God, I don't know for how many years I've used it. Forever. So it's really all I ever use anymore. And I've tried everything else, but I haven't found anything that beats this. And this is like $2.50, $3 for a little bottle of this. Now it's mainly kerosene based with some ammonias in it and a drop of banana oil for the fragrance that we all love, right? And of course a microfiber cloth, a wipe down microfiber cloth. And that's it, you know. And if you use gun oil, which I don't, but if you do, just gun oil, man. This Hoppy's number 9 lubricating gun oil is, or rim oil, really, or shooter's lube, or any of that stuff is just fine, because it's basically all the same. Now, these are the only supplies I've used over the past 20 years. Now, I'm certain you've probably noticed a few items missing from my list that you might see on other videos. First of all, you'll see no bore snake used here. Now listen, there's nothing wrong with bore snakes. I've got 3 of them, but they are kept in my range bag. And they're kept in my range bag because they are designed and intended to be used out in the field where you don't have access to proper cleaning supplies. Okay? They're nowhere near as effective as a common bronze bristle bore brush. Alright? And likewise, you'll see no overpriced, messy, multi-purpose aerosol spray cleaners here. Alright? Again, I've got no problem with CLPs. But just like the bore snake, CLPs, which was first developed by the German military before World War I, say that real fast, World War I, were also designed and intended to be used in the field as a short-term use. Okay, just enough to clean the guns out and keep them running in the field. Alright, and please, fellas, don't go full-blown moron and start using shit like motor oil, WD-40, mean green, brake cleaner, axle grease, fuck's sake. Si prega, por questo mi spiace, but you should at least have an IQ that is higher than that of a single-celled amoeba if you own a gun. Capiche? Okay, now let's very quickly go over what and how to correctly clean our pistol. Okay, now keep in mind that as we are cleaning, we are also inspecting. This is why it's called firearms maintenance. Now we'll touch on the lubrication aspect, then we'll wrap it up with what not to lubricate. Okay, lubrication is fine, but there are things that you do not need to lubricate, and you shouldn't. So let's start with a slide first. Now, my XD here is completely clean. It is not fouled at all. But you don't have to sit here and watch me clean all the fouling out to understand what I'm trying to demonstrate. I think you're smarter than that. You can understand what I'm trying to show you here. So we'll kind of speed it up. All right. First, we'll take a patch and we'll blot it with bore solvent. These flip up things are just right. 1, 2, maybe three drops of it right there. Okay, you can start on the outside or the inside, it doesn't matter. Wipe everything down, all things. The stripper rail, that's your stripper rail. The areas beside it. Okay, come in here and get the interior walls of your slide, the top. Alright, everything. Hit that breech face. Start loosening up any fouling there. When you're working with that breech face, always put that front sight down. That breech face should be pointed down. There's a reason for that, and I'll get to it in a second. Now you can also do the entire outside. All around the ejection port. All around the muzzle area, because that's going to have fouling on it. Okay. Now if you want, you can also, here's where the Q-tips come in handy. Put a blot of solvent on there, and you can get down in here between your stripper rail. Right down in here. To get the rail cuts on your slide, that's not a problem. Take the patch with some bore solvent on it. Take your nylon bristle brush. Okay, wrap it. And then you can scrub it that way. You can scrub it out. And do both of them that way. Okay. And now you can take your Q-tip, put some bore solvent on there, flatten the tip of it out, and go down each rail cut like that. Each side. And just keep doing that until it comes out clean. Everything starts coming out clean. Now when you wiped it all down and cleaned it all up, take your microfiber cloth and wipe it all down. Okay, wipe everything down. You want to dry off any bore solvent that you see on there. Alright. Now, here's the thing about that breech face. If you want to scrub your breech face, and most of the time you'll need to, remember how to hold that breech face. It's got to be facing down. And you've already wetted it with some bore solvent, right? While it was in the down. Because the thing is, you don't want that bore solvent to go down into that firing pin channel. And you don't want debris to get down into that firing pin channel. So you hold it upside down and you scrub it upside down. Okay, you can use the brass bristle or the bronze bristle, or you can use a nylon, whichever. But the important thing is to face down. Then go over your cloth and free it up again. Clean it up. Okay? And wipe everything down, breech face included. Everything down. Everything needs to be completely dry. Okay? Now, the bore solvent usually evaporates pretty quickly. And, you know, if left on there, it's not going to cause harm to the steel or anything. But what happens is when it does evaporate, it can leave a film of residue. And that's something I just don't want to do, so I wipe it off just as soon as I can. Okay. and get it completely dry. And remember, now we're inspecting it. The nose ring looks good, it's not cracked, everything's good. Firing pin safety looks good. The spring on the firing pin is still tight and hard. The extractor looks good, it doesn't look like it's been pinched or anything, or chipped or anything like that. So everything looks good, we've inspected it. Okay, we're done with that. Now your barrel. Same thing. Take your patch, bore solvent, wipe it all down, very good. Get all of that fouling, all that black fouling off of there. Remember to get your chamber entrance, feed ramp, the upper feed portion, but your locking lugs. Get all that out of there. Right? Dampen it with the bore solvent. Put the patch on your slotted rod and run it through a few times. Get it good and wet. Okay. Now you can wipe that off, dry it up, all of that. Now you can take your bronze bristle brush and go in the chamber end. Okay, always put it in the rear. That's what she said. No, always go in the rear and all the way out. Okay, all the way out, then all the way back and all the way out and all the way out. Don't try to change directions while you're still in the barrel. You'll crimp these bristles and it'll be harder than hell to get this thing out. So, breech. Just a few times we'll do that. Then take your cloth and keep doing this and changing cloths until you come out with a clean cloth. And make sure you get a clean, dry cloth and dry it all out. Okay, just like that. Now here's the thing, and this is why this is superior, one of the reasons why this is superior to doing it that way than the bore snake. Okay, number one, it gets in between the rifle, it gets in the lands and the grooves better with this. Number two, when you shoot, every time you fire, carbon and other particulate matter build up on the interior walls of that chamber. And you need to scrub that out. And I mean it, you got to scrub it out, okay? You have to scrub it out. Okay? And the only way to do that is with a brass bristle or bronze bristle brush like this. A nylon brush is not going to work on that, and the bore snake is not going to work on that. You've got to get that crud off of that chamber, those chamber walls, because it gets burnt on. And if it continues to build up, you'll have feeding problems, and you'll have extraction problems. So that wall and that chamber has to be completely clean. And this is the only way to get that done. Now they do make a special tool specifically for that, but it's basically the same thing as this, but on a shorter stem. Okay. And we're inspecting it. There's no dings to the crown or anything like that. Lugs look good. Feed ramp is not battered up. So it looks good. Okay. Now, the recoil spring, the RSA, recoil spring assembly. There's nothing you need to do with this except maybe wipe it down. Just wipe it down with a clean cloth. Alright, if you see any particulate matter or debris in between the coils, well, just take your nylon brush and knock it off. That's all you have to do. No solvent, you don't need any solvent. Inspect it, make sure the coils are not damaged or bent. Nothing's cracked. Okay, you're good. Now, the only thing we have left is the frame itself. Oh boy. I'm trying to go through this as fast as I can because I've done this video several times before and they're all like 45 minutes long. I'm trying to keep this one much shorter. Alright. Now here's where the Q-tips really come in handy. A little bit of bore solvent. Alright. Clean these rails here. Clean your slide rails. And if you want to, you can take your nylon brush and brush it out. There's not a problem with that. Okay. And your patch, damp it, get it damp. And just get all the fouling off. You'll have to get up here. Okay. And get your ejector. Get your trigger bar as much as you can get that. Any frame feed ramp, if you've got that on your gun. Slide stop lever, just everywhere you can. Make sure to get up under there, under your rails here. Now you're going to have some carbon buildup around here. Okay, not a problem. Bore solvent, scrub it off. Okay, and of course brush where necessary. I hesitate. And I do not recommend taking an aerosol can of cleaner or pump spray cleaner thing and start spraying this shit. You don't need that. That's going to do nothing but spread shit everywhere down in there that you can't get back out. Okay? Then of course, take your cloth and dry it off just like you do every other component. Make sure it's perfectly dry, 100%. Okay? Dry everything off. Alright, inspect everything. Our ejector is not bent or deformed in any way. The rails look good. No cracks or splits up here. Okay, everything looks good. Good and tight. Alright, now, listen, and this seems to be a concern too. Don't worry about getting bore solvent on the polymer, on your polymer frame or polymer magazine, okay? Just use the bore solvent, put it on the patch, clean it off, scrub it off, right around in here. And then as soon as you do that, just take your cloth and wipe it dry, alright? Just like you do any other component, all the other ones. Just wipe it off, make sure it's all off, okay? Alright, let's see. Polymer drums are commonly used to transport and store hazardous chemicals, sometimes for long periods. So it's not going to hurt your frame or your polymer at all if you wipe it off as soon as you can. Okay, so it's not going to harm that. Oh, and insofar as magazines go, again, you shouldn't have to disassemble it. The only time you should disassemble it and to clean it or anything is if you need to replace a part, such as a spring, or if you drop it in a bunch of mud or a sand pile or something like that and you need to clean it out. Other than that, your normal range session, you don't need to take it apart. Just take your bore solvent and wipe off the fouling right around the top and the lips of the magazine and the follower. And of course dry it off. And that's all you need to do with your magazine. Alright. Now that our inspection shows that well, of course we inspect our magazine, check the lips, right? Make sure they're not deformed, and check the tension of our magazine and base plate or floor plate, make sure it's still intact. Okay. But now that our inspection shows that the pistol is completely clean and dry, well, you know, I just apply I just lightly apply corrosion protection with my silicone impregnated gun cloth. Okay, I just wipe it with my silicone cloth. Okay. Right in here. Right up in here. Alright. And I'm done. I am ready to reassemble now. Seriously, fellas. The silicone cloth wipe, that wipe down is all the oiling or lubrication your pistol needs. And it only needs it for corrosion protection, not lubricity. Okay, what no one will tell you is that modern high-quality pistols are engineered to function with or without lubrication. It blows your mind, doesn't it? Listen, advances in metallurgical engineering technology combined with phoretic nitrocarburizing procedures has done away with the need for lubricity. Friction causes no wear on hardened steel pistol components. Now, this is true because the light, load-bearing, interacting mating surfaces of those hardened steel components, combined with the low cyclic rate of small arms, can never produce the level of friction needed to cause any perceptible wear in the least. It causes zero dimensional changes of the components. And let me just say this. Comparing the mechanics, as a lot of people like to do, comparing the mechanics of a pistol or small arms to things like an internal combustion car engine. Well, you wouldn't drive your car without oil in it, would you? Look, that does nothing but put your ignorance on full display. Okay? That tells me you don't have a damn clue about what you're speaking of. So go play someplace else. Your pistol will not seize up. It will not wear out. It won't disintegrate. And it won't malfunction without lubrication. It is fouling, excessive fouling, that causes those things. Only a clean pistol will prevent those things. Oil does not prevent nor reduce wear on firearm components, since those components will not wear anyway, provided they are kept clean. Lubrication will not magically prolong the life of your gun. Only keeping it clean will. You know, pistols simply do not wear out if they are properly maintained. Now, as I said earlier, oil does nothing but attract and retain fouling in our pistol and forms an abrasive sludge. Grease will do this even quicker. With a dry or non-lubricated pistol, much of that fouling is blown free from the pistol every time it fires. That's why it will be so much easier and quicker to clean at the end of the day. Now, I'm not at all trying to imply that you should not lubricate your firearms. Absolutely do it if you want to. Not a problem. I'm just giving you factual information. I haven't lubricated a firearm in almost 20 years. Neither of these two pistols right here have ever had a drop of lube on them. No wear, no malfunctions. They've always been easy to clean, and I have well over 8,500 rounds through my XD here, and never a single stoppage, ever. And I've never changed out any components. And I have shot this gun, it's never seen a drop of oil or lubrication other than the silicone wipe. But should you decide to lubricate, there is nothing wrong at all with doing it. But there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. Okay? And here's the wrong way. Don't start putting drops of oil everywhere on it and then start smearing it around with your fingers. Okay? That's too much lubrication. Don't drizzle oil anywhere on your gun. Why? That's right, it's too much lubrication. Don't start running beads, running beads. And look, you're not fucking welding, okay? So don't run beads. Fellas, oil is subject to gravity, like everything else. This causes excessive oil to migrate into and onto certain areas that were intended to remain completely dry in order to function as designed. Most notably the magazine lips, your ammo, and the firing pin channel. Now I'll expand on that in a minute. Now here's the right way to apply any lubrication to your pistol, okay? Just apply a few drops to your microfiber cloth, okay? And rub it on. Just rub it on. Okay? Just rub it on. Go to the clean side of it. Do a quick swipe. I'm not talking about scrubbing it off. I'm talking about just swiping. Okay? Okay, forget this dropping here and then smearing it with your finger shit. Alright? Now if you want to lubricate your rail cuts in here, that's okay. Crush your Q-tip, put a couple of drops, 1, maybe 2 drops of oil on it, and just run it up and down that rail a couple of times, and up and down that rail cut a couple of times. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. Okay, that'll leave a microfilm of oil, but it's not enough to migrate. You don't want a wet pistol. If it looks wet, then you've over lubricated. Alright, anything other than that is over lubrication. Now let me point out a couple of cautions to close this video out, and here are those cautions. Keep oil off of all springs, including the trigger spring, the recoil spring, the striker spring, extractor plunger spring, firing pin spring, safety spring, firing pin safety spring, all that. Springs do not need oil, and you want to avoid that oil retaining fouling or debris between these coils. So just don't oil the springs. Never oil any part of your magazine for any reason. Never use any type of dry lubricant on any part of any firearm, really. They must remain bone dry in order to function reliably, and oil on the lips of the magazine will cause a malfunction because the lips are engineered to have a certain frictional coefficient in order to hold the cartridge in place until the strip rail engages the cartridge from behind and pushes it toward the chamber, right? Oil right here will cause that cartridge to leave the lips prematurely, which will result in stovepipe malfunctions. So just keep them dry. And absolutely keep all oil out of the firing pin channel itself. Now this can also occur due to over lubrication by that migrating oil. Oil in the channel here can easily cause a hydraulic resistance, commonly referred to as a hydrolock, resulting in light primer strikes, which means that the striker is unable to generate the forward velocity necessary to strike the primer hard enough to ignite it. And there are several ways that oil can get down in there. So you need to be very careful in that area. Alright, well listen fellas, I think that about wraps up this subject. Remember that my videos are educational videos and not necessarily instructional videos, as I am no longer a state certified police firearms instructor, nor am I a certified chief weapons armorer anymore. But as mentioned in the beginning of the video, these procedures are consistent with the maintenance training portions in the factory armorers courses of at least 3 major U.S. arms manufacturers and backed up by their metallurgical engineers. So, thanks for watching. I hope I was able to put forth some useful information for you because, you know, that's always my goal here. So, hey, I'm Antonius, and, you know, man, I keep shooting it straight to you. Ciao, boys.